Hi students, we're back here in Lightroom and we're going to take this photograph to Photoshop and actually work on it in lab color. To do that, we are going to right click in Lightroom, go to edit and edit in a Photoshop, Adobe Photoshop 2024 or whatever version of Photoshop that you are currently using. Or it's currently out, maybe this is a little older video. We're going to change our image mode of this image from RGB, which it is in currently at 16-bit. We're going to change this over to lab color, or L.A.B color, technically, is what it is truly called, and we're going to leave this at 16-bit. 16-bit has millions more colors. That'll give me a lot more variations in my tonality as I'm working. So to work on this image, the couple of things I want to do is the background is really distracting from the horse itself, and I'd like to bring the horse out, and I'd like to change the color of this blue part of the saddle to a different color. And we'll look at different colors and see which one works best here in a little bit. I also want to desaturate the background a little bit so I can bring out the horse, and I also want to have the horse more saturated in overall. So we're going to work on that little at a time here, and I'll just go through these steps. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to grab the polygonal lasso tool right here. The polygonal lasso tool has a toolbar up here at the top, including feathering and select and mask, and I like to use this, but we haven't talked about this in class, so for right now just ignore this and the feathering, and we're just going to make a selection of our part of our saddle here to start with. I like to use because these are kind of split into different sections here, I'm going to use this plus tool here. I could also use the minus, or on my keyboard I can, if I'm hovering over an area, I can, and I'm in this mode right here, I can actually, if I have a selection, and I'll just make a quick selection here just so you can see this. If I want to add to this selection, I hit this shift key on my, the shift key on my keyboard, and then I can add to the selection. And if I want to subtract from the selection, I hit the alt key and it turns into a negative, and I can actually remove part of the selection. Command D or Control D on a PC will get rid of my selection altogether. So now that we've got that done, let's take a look at actually making a selection of parts of the saddle. So I'm going to zoom in here nice and tight, and I'm going to make sure I have the additive, because I'm going to have multiple pieces here to add. I might as well just go with additive. I start following along. Now, truthfully, as I'm going through this, the best way to actually make a selection like this is to use the pen tool, but since we haven't learned the pen tool yet, I'm going to stick with what you know, and that is this particular tool. Now the object selection tool, or maybe is not going to work for us because it's not going to be able to tell the difference between, it's going to just pick up the horse itself. And if I use if I go with a color range tool, such as the magic wand, it may not pick up the colors, and it may pick up some of the colors I don't want. So I prefer this. Now I'm looking for the end here. I've been having a lot more problems with finding the ends here in the newer version of Adobe. As soon as I hit that end, you can see it turns into a little zero there, and that means I've actually found the end, and I can just click one more time, and that will make it into my selection. If for some reason that doesn't pop up for you and you don't find the zero, just hit the Enter key, and that will also find the end for you. So I'm going to go ahead and make another selection here, and I am on the plus or the selection toolbar up there. I've definitely got this on additive, so I'm being able to add to my color value here. I'm going to come down here to the end and make sure I have a nice good selection. I'm going to add this as my selection because this is that same blue that's in the saddle down there, and I want to make sure that I'm getting it. Now I've made a couple little errors as I'm going, and that's okay. The wonderful thing is I can go back and fix some of these with what I know. And for example, if I don't get the interior here, I can go back with the plus, or I can always come back and I can use the minus key if I got outside of an area. And just a minute ago I got outside the area, so I'm going to want to go back and adjust that little spot. Now, like I said, curves are kind of hard to do, so you have to do a lot of little moves instead of, and this takes a little bit more time. That's why the pen tool is much more efficient, because you can actually create a curve with the pen tool and stick with your actual design and make a lot less clicks. So, but for now, since we haven't learned that, and there's that mistake I was talking about, I'll have to come back to that in just a moment. I'm going to go ahead and finish this this selection off, and I'm almost there. And once I hit the home part there, it's made it into a selection. I'm going to hit the Alt key and just minus this little tiny sliver right there, and that gets rid of that area. And once I can attach that, I've got a nice selection. And now my next selection is to come down here and do this bigger part. So I'm going to come around this and do this. And this is going to take a minute, just because it's such a big area. And I'm going to have a lot of little clicks right around this area, just as I'm working, so that I can get a better selection of that area. When I come down here, I'm going to make sure I get that, and come back around here, and I'm getting close to having this selected, and almost there. And you can see that when they were painting this, they actually got a little paint off the edge there. We'll just keep that so that we can actually make it look a little bit cleaner in the long run. So I'm going to check my horse here, make sure that if there's any more blues. And I have two more little slivers of blue here, so I'm going to capture those and make a selection of those. And once I have that selection, and I will make this last one here, we're going to go in and we're going to make a change to this. So as we're in lab color, we're going to be dealing with, we can do this in several ways. One of the most effective ways is to use hue and saturation with this. And since we've done this, once we add hue or saturation to a mask, we are going in our layers. So I'm just going to go on over here to layers. Once I start using hue and saturation, I can actually make a selection, or I'll change this hue or color of this, and I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. Another way would actually be to do it through color or colorizing it. I'm going to show you how to do it through the hue and saturation and also through curves, just so that you can get an idea of some of the ways that you can actually change color in here. It is a much more efficient and effective way to change your color than it is in Adobe RGB or in Pro Photo. So it works completely different in here, and you're going to be able to keep your values within the saddle. See how all those nice little gradations of color in here? It's not going to flatten out our color like it would so much in Adobe RGB. Once I have this selected, I'm going to come up here to select, and I'm going to do this thing called save a selection. This way, especially during this video, if I make a mistake and lose my selection, I'll be able to go back to that selection. For some reason, it put it on my other screen here, so I'm going to drag this over here so you can see it. I want to make sure this is on new, and I am going to add this to this document. And down here, I'm going to give this name Saddle, and this way, and apparently I can't type today, I'm going to name the saddle, and I'm going to hit OK. And that's now saved as a selection. If I come over here to the channels, I can actually see my selection here. If I was to deselect this, there's two ways to get my selection back. I could go to Select, Load Selection, and again, my pop-up came over on the other screen there. Channel, I'd want to choose Saddle, and then hit OK, and that's going to bring up that that selection again. Again, if I lose my selection, but I've made a channel, I can come down here, click on the channel itself, and then hit this little icon down here, which is a selection channel, and then turn back on all the other channels. And I can actually see the masking here, which is kind of nice. If I don't want to see the masking, I can turn that off. So I have that selection made again, and now I want to make some changes. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to our adjustment layers here, And we're going to try, the first one we're going to try is through hue and saturation. So in the hue and saturation, I get these sliders right here. Now I could up the saturation, which I want to do a little bit. I want to get a little bit more saturation in the saddle, this part of the saddle, since it's my really bright color that I'm working with. And then I can adjust the color itself by pulling this on this slider, and you can see that the color is changing as I slide this slider. So I'm getting greens and blues, and I can get some violets and oranges and so forth. Okay. So this is how I can change this color, or this is one of the ways that I can change this. Another option, just so that you're aware of it, is this option down here called Colorize. If I click the Colorize version, I'm going to get a very much a color that is very consistent all the way across the board. Now this looks better, but the problem is I lost some of the tints that were in here, and so that's become a whole issue on its own. So I don't care for that much because there's not as many color values within this image anymore. But I can then, of course, change the color to whatever color I like it to be, which is wonderful. And so I can adjust this. And let's say that we want a nice red saddle here. So let's go and find a nice red to an orange here. Let's see here, more oranges, and I'm trying to find a good red. That's about as red as I'm going to get. Let's pull up the saturation a little bit more. There we go. And we'll go with more of a little reddish pink. I can darken this down and get a little bit more red out of it. There we go. That's a lot more red now. So just by adding some lightness here. This works pretty well. However, it's not great. It looks a little flat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here to my opacity and try opacity and just see if pulling this down brings back some of the undertones that I originally had. And I'm not seeing a really good change here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try changing the mode. Now you'll notice that some of these modes are not working, like darken isn't working, color burn isn't working. That's because I'm in 16-bit and I'm also in lab color, so some of these will not work. But I'm going to see if I can find one that really grabs the color that I want it to show. Now that pink has really come along right there with vivid light. And look at that. Look at that nice little, I'm getting those nice highlights back. Isn't that sweet? And also some of those deep shadows there, but it may be a little too much. Let's keep going here and see what else we've got. Pen light, difference, hue, saturation, color, and luminosity. I think the two for me, the best that turning this into pink, were either color or vivid light. Now, again, I think the vivid light's a little bit better, however, because I'm getting those nice highlights there, but I'm having some issues with this because of the way it's working. I'm going to put vivid light, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to turn off this colorization, and I'm going to go back to the original color tone here, and just slide this down and see if this works better with one of these sliders instead, or with the hue and saturation slider. And it's not really giving me the color that I'm really wanting. So I'm going to darken this down, see if that helps, and use the slider again. I'm getting more greens, kind of getting a nice gold tone there. That was kind of nice. There's getting into my reds and oranges, and I'm liking this color right in here a lot, and the way that it's kind of bronzing. This is nice. So you can work along with the way that the layer works. You can try changing the color through here, and truthfully, I am really trying to find a color here that I really like. and I think the colorized version was working best for me. So I'm going to take this back to colorize here and let this work for me this way, and just go with this nice red here. So this is one way to actually do this. We're going to take another look at how we can actually improve this, or we can try a different route to make this color the way we want it. So I'm going to turn this one off and go back to our original color here. Let's remake that selection, which is here under saddle. Remake that selection, and then we're going to turn on all of our channels again, except for the hue and saturation in the saddle. We'll turn those back off. Now we're going to come back to adjustments here, and we are going to try this using curves. So I've got curves here, and I'm going to try the A channel and see if I pull this up. Ooh, look at that nice pink that I got right away, immediately. And I've got those nice values still in there. That's very sweet looking, and much more the color that I was really looking for originally. I can pull this up and get a little bit more in here, a little bit more intensity, just like that. And I can choose one of these, whichever works best for me. It is starting to flatten out a bit. So let's try changing its mode and see if any of these help to make the image look better. And ooh, look at that sweet red right there. That's really nice. Let's keep going here. Getting some nice pinks here. In many ways, this I'm seeing some that are working, some that are not working so well. Let's try color down here at the bottom. Color seems to maybe be my favorite, just to give me a good overall tonality. I really do like that heavy red right there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and keep this red, and I'm going to deselect these other ones, or I'm going to take and just go back around these right here with just a general selection, and I'm just going to take that, and in this curve I'm going to fill those, edit, fill, and I'm going to choose to fill that with black. And what that's going to do is it's going to leave this piece up here that color, which I really like. I'm going to deselect, or Command D, and then I'm going to reselect my saddle again, and then I'm going to turn everything back on and turn the saddle off. And I'm going to do the curves again and try to match this color right here with the curves, but I'm going to create a new curve. But I need to, before I do that, I need to subtract this value, this one right here. So once this is subtracted, I'm going to be able to now change this color, and let's see if we can get close to matching that color that we had before. Before. So I am right in here, but I've got the wrong channel here. I need to make sure I add a new curve. So I'm going to come here to my layers adjustments and add a new curve so that it's just this as my selection. We can see that here in my mask now. And we're going to go back to the A channel, and as I pull up, I'm going to see if I can find that same red in the channels here. Now, I'm not quite finding it. It's just wanting to stay that pink. So we're going to have to do a little bit more aggressive work with this and see if we can find a nice color change here. And let's go to the B channel and see if by adding this, aha, there we go. We're starting to get there. A little too orange, very magenta. I'm going to pull down and get some of these nice color, some of this color back in here. Look at that. That's starting to get there. And I think what we need to really do is go back to the lightness in here and darken this up. And oh, there we go. We're starting to get that nice red tone going on there. Look at that. That's a nice red. And we've got this red back here. We noticed that originally, if we turn these two off, they were slightly different colors anyway. And so I kind of like that they're just slightly a variation on each other. If I'd like this one a little bit better, I could always come back to here and go to one of the channels here. And I think it's in the blue channel that I'm wanting to just make this a little bit more reddish. And I also want to go to the lightness channel and pull this down just a bit, brighten it up just a bit, and I'm getting closer now to this color here. So overall, I'm starting to really get there. I might want to work at this a little bit more, but for demonstration, this is pretty good, and it shows you exactly how to make those changes to a section or an area of color. So now let's move on to actually adjusting our hue and saturation in our background, and also making a selection of our horse. So I'm just going to move this out of the way so that you guys can see this better. And so we've got our horse, and we need to, and I love this red now. This is really nice. It's very, very saturated, and looks beautiful. We're going to, now what we need to do is select the horse. We may have a little bit of a tough time right over in here and here with the selection, because these values are somewhat similar to the color in the horse itself. So when when we use our tools to make our selection, it may have a hard time finding this right away as we use the object selection tool. So it's going through and it decided on what a horse is here, and as you can see, it's having a little problem right in here. With choosing the horse, it's having a little issue right there too. And we'll see what happens when it actually makes the selection. So there's our selection. As you can see, it added some areas that aren't supposed to be added, and it didn't add some areas that it was supposed to add. So grab that. I'm going to again grab the polygonal lasso tool. I'm going to zoom in really tight on my subject here, and I was zooming out, so zooming in now. I'm going to start subtracting areas within the image that I don't want to have added. And as you can see, I still am, for whatever reason, since they've made these changes to Lightroom, or I mean to Photoshop, I've been having a little harder time making, getting the polygonal lasso tool to actually find its end. Before, it would find it too fast, and a lot of times it would snap right to it, and that would become a real problem. And as you can see here, I'm just going through and really just adjusting my selection and making it much better, so that when I'm done, it'll look very professional and look exactly like what it should look like. And I come back over here, and I'm just going to hit Enter key, and you can see I got a little bit of background this time. So I'm going to just remove those. And coming up here, I can see that I've got some more that I need to add. And here, I need to add this. And this is part of the pole that actually goes to the horse, and it's not selected at all. So I'm going to come up through here and make a quick selection of the pole itself so that it is added to this, because I'm going to want it to be saturated more too, and also not included in the background selection, which we're actually in some ways making a background selection while we're making a selection of the horse. So I'm coming down through here. I've made a few little errors. I'm going to just, for time's sake in this video, I'm just going to come on down here and just make this happen. And then I'm going to come up and I'm going to look around the rest of the horse here. I'm going to look for things like this that need to be added. And just going around looking at this, and I can see I've got another little bits here that need to be added. Again, hit the Enter key just to make it quite faster and in the selection process. And again, I'm going to hit that, and I need to add, decide on what is part of the horse here. This is the part of the background that has been selected, so I need to subtract that. So I'm going to come down through here and subtract that area from my horse. And as you can see, I've got that. And I'm going to come on down here a little bit further and deselect this area down here too. And it's a really large area actually. We're going down the nose here. This horse is neck and neck, and we're almost got the nose. It's almost going to be by the nose. So anyway, we've got this almost selected here, and now I've deselected that area because I do not need it. I noticed down in here someplace, yep, there it is, that I'm missing part of the selection. But here I need to also deselect parts of this mouth here. So I'm going to come in here and deselect this. This is not supposed to be part of my selection. And we're going to just make sure that we get all of that. And I'm going to have to add some teeth back in here. Looks like I missed some teeth on this. So I've subtracted that, but I realized that these teeth are teeth that actually belong to this mouth here. So I'm going to go ahead and select those back in. And down here, I made a little error with this, and this is actually a little bit of the front of the teeth that's just showing. So I'm going to make sure I grab that too. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to add to the selection. And going through here, I can add to this bit of selection. I'm going to come on down here. And it looks like I've got a really big area that didn't get selected. So that I don't lose my place, I'm going to go back around like this and hit enter on my keyboard and make that nice selection. Come down here and we're going to add this part of the horse in. And it looks like we got a little bit of a collar thing that we need to add in. Part of the horse here. Notice that blue that we had earlier, we probably should go back and add it to our back to our color selection in the other part of the image. But because due to time constraints here in this video, and I'm already taking a while to do this, I want to make sure that I am getting you the best information here as possible. Now this whole area here did not get selected, and it's part of the horse. So I'm going to round it to actually add in, and I'm going to hit enter on my keyboard and add all that in. I'm going to check the leg here, make sure the leg is good, and I'm missing parts of the leg. So I'm going to add those parts of the leg in, just like that. Checking the whole entire leg, I've got a few little bits here that need to be added in, and sometimes I'll come in and for areas like that, I may add a feather to it because it gets really soft down in there, and a very hard selection down in those areas could make it look like I'd actually done some work to the image. So I might end up going back and doing a little bit of softening to the selection in those areas, or as I'm selecting. And you can actually see right here, you can actually see parts that I missed in the selection and overdid. This is why we usually want to do this really tight like I'm doing now to make our selection. Now this is part of the pole, so we want to include it within our image selection. Now, I may have wanted or should have, and I just missed a piece there, one of the things I may have should have included or excluded was this black here. I really don't need it to get much more exposed, or I don't need a lot more color in there, and I'd like to keep it somewhat not as brilliant and bright and keep it kind of black. But for this demonstration, I'm just going to leave it or keep it in here as as I'm fixing the color. So we're almost there. We're getting close to the hind end of the horse here. Getting closer to making our full selection here. And let's see here. We're going to check it here in a minute to make sure we didn't miss anything. And I'm going around the back of the horse here. And let's just check to see if we've got everything. And it looks like I've got everything. I've got the pole for the horse. There's I've got all of the horse itself, all of the parts. I do need to check this area right here because I didn't check it before, and just make sure that the horse's tail is in there. It looks like there's a piece back up here that shouldn't be selected. It looks like part of the background, so I'm going to go ahead and unselect that area right there, right behind, underneath the tail there, and that's better. And then I also found this little section down here. There's some kind of little light or reflected material that is right down in here. It's something I might come back in here with the clone tool and take care of after I'm done, just to clean this up a little bit and make it look better. I'm now going to save this selection. So I'm going to go to say select, and down here to save selection, and we're going to add a new channel again, and this is going to be just called horse, and I'm going to hit OK. Now it's going to add again in my channels. That added a new channel down there called horse. So I've got my horse selected, and what I want to do now is I want to brighten, or I want to add more saturation to the horse itself. To do this, I am going to go to the Adjustments palette and go to Hue and Saturation, and I am going to pull the saturation up on this horse. Look at that beautiful color that we're really getting in the horse now. This is really helping. I don't want to overdo it. If I overdo it, I'm going to get something like that, and that looks really tacky. I want to make this look as realistic, but really add some punch to the horse itself, and I like it somewhere right around here, 30 here, and this is looking really nice. It's also now starting to really pull it out against the information in the background. Now we've got this done. Let's actually desaturate the background. Now this is going to be really easy. All we're going to do is come back down here to our horse, or to select load. And I'm just going to click here and make a selection real quick, and then turn all of my channels back on. And now that I can see that, I am going to select inverse. So again, Shift Control I. I'm going to select the inverse here. So this is now selecting the background. Create another adjustment layer for hue and saturation, and I'm going to pull the saturation down on the horses in the background. And look at that. Look at how this horse just really stands out now. It is really popping forward and making the image that much more nice and beautiful. While I have it here, if I'd like, I'm going to just pull the saturation up just a slight bit. But while I'm in here working on this, and I'm going to reselect that area that I just had, and I'm going to darken it. So I'm just going to go to Adjustments. I'm going to go back to my curves here, and I'm just going to darken that background up a little bit. So this pops the horse forward even more, just like that. And that's just making my horse. And I'd work on this a lot more, making some dodging and burning, doing some dodging and burning, and maybe get rid of this with this little area right here underneath the between the tail and the rear haunch. I'd want to get rid of that, maybe get rid of this little piece over the top of his head, and do some cloning and healing, and just making some really good changes to this, and also making some other good changes to the entire overall image. So this is how you can go in. You can start cleaning up your image. I'd probably also want to add some color right here into the bar here and here, so it doesn't look so used and worn. And that's going to make this look so much better and cleaner. So this is how to use lab color to create selections and selective color, and to really make something pop out and give it some real oomph. Okay, so next up, we're going to also look at regular old RGB color saturation, and also making some selections and color in there. And let's get on to that. So I'm going to save this video, and I'll see you in class.